The fun is back. Oh, yes, sirree. It's the 2600 from Atari.
One of the most recognizable brands still in video gaming is Atari, a brand that started in the original days of video gaming in the arcades and brought one of the most world-renowned consoles to millions of people's homes back in the 80s. Unfortunately, it then died out and Atari kind of disappeared when Sega and Nintendo took over the mantle, but they never really gone away. After a few handovers of the brand, Atari is really coming back with a few new announcements this year. They are announcing a new console, the 2600 Plus, which is a retro console that actually plays the original games, as well as a bunch of new games that they're releasing, and many, many more projects are on the way. We were able to talk with Ethan Stearns from Atari about the upcoming projects, about the new games they're releasing, and the other things that are down the line in celebration of their 50th anniversary, as well as what they have planned for the future. I'm here with Ethan Stearns from Atari. Ethan, thank you for hosting me at the Atari booth. What is going on with Atari?
Man, so many things are going on at Atari. So, this is our first PAX as this version of Atari. There's been many versions of Atari over the years. About 3 years ago, we had new leadership come in, and we're really trying to focus back on games. Sometimes people think of Atari, and they know Atari as a brand, but they don't necessarily think of us as someone who's like making things and participating in the game space. And that bums us out because we love games, and the company's made of people who love games. So our whole games team is here today. We're showing off 6 games that we're bringing to modern consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, PC. And then we also have, we're showing our new 2600 Plus console that we just announced recently and put on pre-order. It'll be coming out in November. And then we have a bunch of other fun little things that we're showing off, some of our cartridges that we make as part of our XP program, some merchandise and stuff. I don't know. And we got our Arcade 1-Up back here showing off their new Arcade 1-Up Atari 50 edition. Has 64 something games on it.
Yeah, the new cabinet looks amazing. I was skeptical at first when I saw just a picture, but seeing it in person is a whole different thing. It's got the chrome and everything. It's really beautiful.
And just having like having the wheel and the ball and the trackball and the joystick and the button that really you can jump into anything from like Tempest to Asteroids to Galaga or anything. It's like you have all the right tools, the tactile experience that you want to have.
And I noticed it has all the Atari 2600 games in the library as well, so that's very nice. And talk about Atari 2600, one of the things that I saw in the announcement of the 2600 Plus that really sold it for me is that this, unlike other clones before it, is the first console that allows you to use the original cartridges. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so, the company is right now we're really focusing on who is our community. And a big part of Atari's community has always been the nostalgic collectors, people who grew up on the original Atari, people who go find all the cartridges they grew up with, but also go out and try to track down the rare finds. So over the last couple of years, we have had a program called the XP program, where we re-release cartridges, working cartridges. Some of them are for the classic games like Centipede, but we also have released. We're also releasing other ones like Aqua Adventure and Saboteur, which we're showing here, which never came out before.
Okay, so they're brand new releases.
Well, yeah, they were like unfinished titles from the '90s that never came out, and so we've been dabbling in that area of like giving back to or better understanding our community of collectors and lovers of Atari from that era. So it kind of is a no-brainer to support them with hardware. Other people make hardware that can read like a 2600 cartridge. So we really wanted to make a product that really represented that nostalgia, that 2600 nostalgia. It's just 80% the size of a normal one. The dip switches and stuff on it like feel exactly the same. I actually run the games group, but our hardware lead, it was a project closest to his heart to like make sure he got all the little looks and feel across every little detail of the console, the feel, like it would have back then. But giving you an HDMI port so that you can play it on a modern OLED television. And it even has a switch in the back to switch between 4:3 and 16:9. So depending on what type of game experience you want to have at your home, you can have both of those. But you can just go to your local garage sale, find some cartridges, you bring it home, you plug it in there. If you have a big collection, but like hooking up a old console with coaxial to your television is a pain in the ass, it's a really fantastic way. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Let's support that. The other thing I would say too is it's kind of going back to the point about community. We're trying to better understand and interact with the community around Atari, and sometimes it doesn't need to be a really complicated thing. We don't need to make a big, crazy, complicated hardware solution with tons of new features. It really just doing something simple and but understanding the audience we're making it for, and just a simple addition of a 2600 with an HDMI port on the back. It's like, it just helps fuel that community, and that's part of the reasoning behind it.
And it looks great. And even though the console is a little bit smaller in size, like you said, not too much though, it even has the right specifications for the controller, right? They're just like the original ones?
Correct, yeah, and actually the new controllers you can even plug into your old 2600, or you could take your old controllers that you might have for 2600 and plug them in here. It's the same interface.
So when you have Star Raiders laying around, you can take that controller and plug it in.
Yeah, you can plug it in.
That's really cool. So does it mean that the console is hardware emulation based or software emulation based?
Actually, I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I know that it's reading the ROM and emulating the hardware using like Stella is probably the most common emulator for the 2600. So it's not. There are devices that like you would plug in a cartridge and it would like download the ROM in order to replicate it on digital hardware. This does not do that. So I'm pretty sure it's hardware emulation. It's reading the cartridge exactly, but it's emulating the hardware capability on the device. There is a compatibility list which you can find on our website. It's pretty massive. I mean, it's not a select group of games. It's pretty well covered. It even covers a number of homebrew titles, things like that.
And for things that have not made the list yet, do you think there are going to be any future updates or something like that?
Our goal is to have it play everything. We want it to be a device that helps collectors be able to play the games that they love, and maybe even like play those games with their kids and a new generation of people, or new generation of gamers who never played Yar's Revenge, never played Missile Command, the original console, be able to like, this is the building blocks of everything that's here at PAX in a lot of ways. And so being able to, for people to be able to go out and play that in the original, with the original controller and everything, that's something that's important to a lot of people.
So you sport the original cartridges, and you're also releasing it with a 10-in-1 cartridge for the launch of the console. Any plans for more combo packs in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anything to announce now, but we are going to continue to put out cartridges. So one of the games we're actually showing here, a newer game, is called Mr. Run and Jump. And in addition to the new game, we're also the developer of that new game also made a 2600 homebrew game that we're also releasing as a newly published 2600 game. It's the first 2600 cartridge new title that Atari has published in 30 years. So we're also publishing Berserk, which we're showing today. So we're republishing that as a cartridge. So I think we will continue to have the XP program will continue to run in a number of different formats. Some of that might be like super collectible, like packages with lots of pack-ins and stuff like that. And some of them might be like really simple carts with manuals. But yeah, you should expect we're going to continue to make more of these things.
It's also good to see that you're bringing out the tennis controllers as well, because a lot of games could not be played without them. Is there a plan, or do they come with packed-in games as well at this point, or do we need to buy those separate?
So yeah, so there's a 4-pack of sports games that those come with. I don't know the price point. They're over here. Check it out. Breakout, Cannon Bomber, Night Diver, and Video Olympics.
Oh, those are pretty good games. I played hours of Night Driver back in my day. As it goes for the Atari 2600, how do you feel when people say to you, hey, why would I get the 2600 Plus? Why not get a cheap CVS combo pack or something like that? You know, there's plenty of emulators out there or all built-in-one devices. How do you think you want to approach people that come to you with that kind of argument?
I mean, I think with the 2600 Plus, it's pretty simple. It's like it looks and operates like a 2600, and it plays cartridges. And there are other emulator products. We even have some partners that we work with who make really awesome collections of hardware. So we actually are showing some stuff here from Dream Gear who's a great partner of ours and makes really cool stuff. So I think that that's for a particular audience. And I think that this hardware is for a different type of audience. It's for somebody who wants to have those cartridges stacked next to their TV or in a drawer where they can like pull it off the wall and put it in and start playing that game. And that's a different experience than just having like 1,000, ROMs sitting in the palm of your hand on like a Raspberry Pi device or something. So.
And did I understand correctly? It also plays the 7800 cartridges. Is this correct?
Yeah, it plays 2600 and 7800 games. The cartridges are still out there. So, I mean, I think part of it came down to the size of the slot, because the 5200 is a much larger slot. And so it gave us an ability we have the ability to read those cartridges. So why not give that additional capability to the hardware?
Anything else about Atari that we should really know that you want to talk about?
We have a bunch of games we're showing here as well. Mr. Run and Jump. We have a new version of Haunted House. We announced a game last week called Womp 2, which is kind of like the ball from Pong escaping the paddles of Pong and going on this amazing adventure. We announced a new Lunar Lander game about a month ago, and we're showing gameplay for the first time here of this new Lunar Lander game. And Days of Doom is a title that's coming out in about 2 weeks. That is an awesome tactics-based roguelike set in like a zombie apocalypse scenario. So in addition to reaching back into the collector community, the retro community, and really being supportive there, we're also trying to build new games and innovate kind of as an indie game publisher of titles for the current generation. And I think that those two things kind of connect in a sense of accessibility, right? So my kids, we talked about this earlier, I think, like my kids, if I have the 2600 Plus plugged in, can put a cartridge in and play Yar's Revenge. And that's awesome. But we also want to make new games to continue the legacy of Atari, to bring some of these IPs and some new IPs into the modern game market.
And how do you guys deal with that legacy, as you said, of the brand? I can assume it can weigh pretty heavy on the brand itself and what people have for expectations of Atari. Some people might think it's Atari, it's old, it's no longer relevant. Some people might not be aware it's still present. So how do you approach that in getting new games, designing new games, the hardware that you're doing, and really get yourself reintroduced to the audience and to consumers out there that might not be aware of the current status of Atari? So how do you balance that legacy with the future?
I'm trying to think of the order in which I want to say this. So I think the first thing for us is always going to be like we want to be an awesome game, something that innovates and needs to exist, that we think is special and cool, and that people will. There's a lot of games in the marketplace, but we don't want to just bring another game out just so there's something else there. We want to be making things that have a purpose and maybe innovate in an interesting way that doesn't necessarily have to be mechanically. It could be narratively. It can be a lot of different ways to do that. So that's broadly an initial step. The other thing that isn't necessarily something that we seek out, but just organically, I find that all of our games are usually really easy to pick up and play, but then they have a depth of difficulty to them. So like Mr. Run and Jump we're showing here, I think it says, you can dash and you can run and you can jump, and that's about it. You can pick up and play it, it makes a lot of sense, but then by level 3 it starts to get really hard. And so that feels kind of like connective tissue to the games of old. And the other thing I'd add too is that we generally think of ourselves as not a kids brand. And sometimes when people say family brand, they think of that as meaning kids. That's not how we look at it. We think of it oftentimes video games would be there's a game for dad, and dad goes and plays it in his office, or once kids go to bed in the living room, and then the kids play their games. I think the Atari of old was something that it was a console in the living room that everyone played together, and so we like our games to be something that the whole family could play, and that I have young kids who play video games, and I play video games myself. Some of those video games aren't really appropriate for my kids, and so I like the idea of the games that we're making are ones that again are easy to pick up and play. So my 9-year-old can play it, I can play it, but then there's a depth there for me to chase down, and the whole family can play those games together in a living room, and it feels like an appropriate thing.
Yeah,
to
I
do.
can definitely remember the magazine ads for the Atari 2600 having families sitting around the TV and everybody playing together. So it's good to see you going back into that kind of gaming, and that's the approach that you were taking. For a while, it really looked like Atari was there as a brand, but mostly was focused on apparel and kind of just a few nostalgia things. So it's nice to see that you're picking that up and kind of getting back into the games.
I think a lot of that too is I think the company was always making games. I think that the difficulty is we weren't always doing a great job at talking to the consumer or to the fan or into the communities. And there was a lot of like B2B and like press PR work that we would do. And so part of like the main reason I'm here at PAX, I mean, we're speaking, you represent press, but I'm more interested in like having people walk up and who have no idea what the hell we're doing and be able to just see something. And even if they don't like it or don't want to interact with it, they're like, oh yeah, Atari's making games. The back of my shirt says, yeah, we make games, because so often people just don't know that. And maybe they don't give a shit about what we're doing right now, but we're trying to show ourselves, and we're all gamers. My whole team is here. The whole games team is here because we all love games, and we want to show the games we've been working on, and we want to interact with fellow gamers like that we are. Like, team members are coming back after spending the entire day on the floor and then going to panels, and that's who we are. And so we just want to make sure we're interacting with people. We feel like that's the grassroots work we need to do right now to help the people give a shit about the brand.
And how's the interest been so far? Are you getting a lot of positive reaction? Is it only from older generations, or are there also younger generations that are really into what you're presenting here and what you were doing? Maybe a lot of families?
Yeah, I mean, when you see, I don't see any right now, but like, and maybe it's because I'm a dad, but like, you see like a little kid playing like one of our new games, it makes me super happy. So, we have a speedrun competition going on here for Run and Jump, so there's definitely people coming up to play that, which is super fun. I don't know, just like anytime I see anyone playing one of our games, it makes me happy.
Well, it's good to hear that you're bringing smiles on faces. So the Atari 2600 is up for pre-order now. Is it only on your website, or can you also get it at regular retailers?
Selling on Amazon, so that's the way you can buy it in Europe and some other territories other than the US, where we are pre-ordering it for the US currently right now on our website. We're working on that and getting it into more territories. Everything that we're talking about today, everything from our games, the XP program, to our licensing programs, to the 2600 Plus, to our apparel, all coming through Atari.com. So anyone's interested in more information about Atari, joining our Discord is also a really cool thing to do, because we're all in there, and we're always listening and talking to people, and so we're trying to so we're very accessible in that way. And so if you want to like interact with, look for information on any of the individual products, Atari.com. If you're looking to interact with us as a company, our Discord.
I have another question about the Atari 2600 release and the future planning for this console. There's a lot of homebrew there. We kind of talked about that earlier. So my question is, are there any plans for Atari to work closely with or give more opportunities for people that homebrew to launch their games on the platform with or without Atari's help? How do you see that community help Atari grow?
I think that community is pretty strong on its own. Maybe the 2600 Plus will add some fuel to that fire. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know the right way to put this. Like we love that people do that, and are making cool new stuff. Again, it goes back to sort of innovation, game design, and people's obvious passion for the platform. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we're necessarily thinking that this is a device that will turn that into a bigger community. Maybe it will, but if nothing else, I think now for us as a publisher, we're kind of giving the homebrew community a portal for which to distribute their games on more of a mass scale. So like I said, Mr. Run and Jump was a homebrew title, and we loved it, and now there's a reason for us to publish it as a mass market product. And so there's totally opportunity for more of that to happen.
Well, I have one final question. What is your favorite Atari 2600 game ever?
Man, it's my favorite game. I mean, I don't know. My initial thought was Yars. I think Yars Revenge is like such an interesting game that I don't think is really replicated. It's so many different things in one. But then at the same time, something like Breakout is so forever relevant. And even in today, the Atari 50 thing we have, we're showcasing here with all the games. When I first brought it home and I showed it to my kids and turned on Breakout, watching my kids play Breakout, like immediately understand it, and watching them play that game like made me like I don't know, really excited. So I don't know, Breakout and Yars Revenge probably.
Well, thank you so much for the interview, Ethan. It was great to talk to you, and now it's time for me to pre-order the console and get ready to play some games. If you enjoyed this interview, please check out all our other ones that we have on the site, and of course give us a follow and a like if you can. We also have a website, www.geeksversusgeeks.com, where you can just quietly read about all these interviews as well as reviews of different games that come out. The Atari 2600 is up for pre-order now. It's coming out in November, so go check that out on their website or at your favorite retailer. Have a nice day and see you next time at Geeks vs. Geeks.